So he comes charging across the street, and Dusty sees him and hits the thing. He does the whole thing, right? I'm walking here. I'm walking here.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Mr. Voight, it is an honor to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Jake. Nice to see you.
You've played so many real people in the past, from Howard Cosell to Pope John Paul II and obviously President Roosevelt. Is there a common place that you start at when you're playing a real person, or are all those experiences wildly different?
Well, I don't have any, little rules I set for myself. I'm enthusiastic to play somebody who's different than I, and I go to school on them, as much as I can. I get as much information as I can with those people that you talked about. There are videos, which it's been a great thing. When you think about the actors in the early part of the 20th century, they didn't have any of that stuff, and we have it. So, and more of it, really. So I can look at John Paul II and the way he speaks and the way he addresses people and his behavior with people and the way he walks and all of that. And you can get all of that information, but there's a lot of things that you get, like with Howard Cosell. That was a fun thing for me to do. And I remember talking to Dustin Hoffman, and I was doing a little bit of it was the day I was supposed to shoot. And I had just put on the hairpiece, and I looked in the mirror, and I looked just like Howard, and I had everything all set, and I had padding with a pot belly and all of this. And I'm on the phone with him, and I'm doing a little of it, and Dusty says, "That's great. That's exactly Howard Cosell," he says to me, right? So I said goodbye to Dusty on the phone, and I'm walking toward the set, and I felt terrific. And there was a certain arrogance. And I said, "Holy, that's him. That's him." This arrogance that he had, like, "I'm doing pretty good." You know what I mean? Oh, all right. And I had that, and that was the touch that made the character come alive for me.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. Thank you for telling me that. Well, that actually perfectly leads into my next question, because you mentioned Dustin Hoffman, and this year is the 45th anniversary of one of my all-time favorite movies, which is Midnight Cowboy. And I host a series called The Moments That Made Us, where I look back at some of the most iconic movie scenes ever made. I'd love to look back with you, if you don't mind, at the "I'm Walking Here" scene with you and Mr. Hoffman. And I'm sort of curious, what do you remember most about that day, shooting that sequence and that cab?
Absolutely. I'll tell you everything. First of all, I have to just tell you that Dusty and I were friends, and Dusty and I played these characters because they're very strong characters. They're very different from ourselves. So we improvised all the time. We would go to lunch in our outfits, which were really crazy outfits. And I was playing the cowboy, and he was playing, and we stayed in character. So we were talking in the characters all the time, as much as we could, We go to lunch, and I remember a lot of funny things that happened with our conversations during lunch. And so we were used to it, and sometimes we would prepare things. We would have a little something that we wanted to get out, or, we wanted to use somehow. But anyway, and we enjoyed each other. We enjoyed playing off each other. So there was this scene. They had a camera way up the street, and it was a long focus lens, and it was in the middle. And they put a box around it. It was right on the sidewalk. They put this box on, and hidden, and there was a camera with a thing cut out so they could, see us. And they would give us a signal with a hand or something like that. And we were about, I don't know how many yards away, 10 yards, maybe 25 yards away, right? Down this street. And the cabs were somebody was supposed to hold up the cabs when we crossed that street. And what happened was the guy tried to stop this guy from going, and he said, "The hell with it, I'm going." He was waiting there for 10 minutes while we were fooling around, and he had to get his work done. You know what I mean? So he was upset. He was a New York cab driver. He didn't give a damn about a movie being done. So he comes charging across the street, and Dusty sees him and hits the thing. He does the whole thing, right? I'm walking here. And he said, and he does the whole thing. And I see this happening, right? And all I'm saying to myself is, stay in character. Don't break it. This is it. And I walk it. And then he says, that's a good way to get insurance. It said this line, that's a pretty good way to get insurance, whatever it was. And I knew he had that line stored up in him to say, do you see, somewhere in the film. And the thing that just happened, he did that instinctually. And then we just stayed with it. And all I was saying is just stay in the scene, stay in character. That's not my scene. It's not my joke. Just stay in character. And we got it. And they said, we got it. I said, yeah, we got it. I was so happy, But Dusty was brilliant. I mean, brilliant guy. And we had a wonderful time making that film.
Well, you are brilliant as well, sir. As a fan of film, you have no idea how much that story just meant to me. If you cannot tell, I'm a massive fan of your work, sir. I've always wanted to interview you. Our paths have never crossed, and I want you to know it's an honor, and I do appreciate your time.
Oh, God bless you. Thanks so much.
You too, sir. Take care.
My
Bye-bye.
pleasure.
Take care.
To unload that story.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you, sir. Take care. Bye-bye.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.